Okay, what do we have in the shop today? This is a pump that, when it's operational, stands in a vertical position with the motor being at the top and the piping down below. This is a lot of stainless steel on here. This came from my source. This was in the scrap hopper that I'm able to pull from and pay 10 cents a pound for. So that motor there is what makes it valuable. So let's go ahead and start tearing this thing apart and seeing what kind of money we can make. But first, let's weigh it up, see how much it weighs, how much I had to pay for it. Turn the scale on, zero out. And she comes in at 323 pounds. All right, let's go ahead and tear her apart. All right, so I guess the first thing we should do is just get the motor disconnected. Let's go ahead and try to take apart the pump itself, see if we can find any valuables inside it. supports here are steel. The housing is stainless. Of course, that's steel. Let's go ahead and take these apart. Okay, so you can see that we disassembled that pump pretty much completely. Separated the stainless steel from the steel part, and it was a good portion of it stainless steel, so I guess that's a good thing. But the value is right here, so let's go ahead and break that thing down. All right, so this motor shows that it says a 15 horsepower motor. Now, this was kind of a small motor, doesn't seem very big, but my rule of thumb, I just multiply the horsepower by 1.5, and generally that's how much copper I expect out of it. So I guess if it's 15 horse, I'm expecting 22, 23 pounds of copper out of this. That seems like an awful lot to ask for a little guy like this, but let's tear it apart and find out. I got my fingers crossed. So let's go ahead and just weigh the motor up and see what it weighs. All right, that little guy weighs 196 pounds. It doesn't look like it. All right, so now I'm hoping for 22 pounds of copper, 23 pounds. Now I'm pretty confident after weighing this thing. All right, so we got down to the good stuff here. Let's go ahead and find a place to scratch that and see if it's copper. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it is copper, so we're on a good pace here. All right, let's go ahead and get this rotor out of there and try to get that stator out. So as you can see, I tried something new with the machete. You know, people suggest that all the time. But the trick is trying to keep it in between one plate instead of slicing through several of them. Then you end up with a mess like that. But it's all right, we'll work with that. All right, let's get these out of here. I'm gonna need a bigger bowl to hold my copper. There's a lot more copper in here than I was expecting, which that's always a good thing. Let me change tubs to hold the copper in. Something bigger. All right. All right, we have that pump completely tore apart. I've got everything separated. This is all the steel. Everything in that pump that was steel. Here is the stainless steel. And the last thing that we did was the copper. There's a good amount of copper in there. I'm getting excited about that. But the first thing we're going to do is weigh the steel here. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in my steel bucket. And I've got that zeroed out. So let's go ahead and load this tub up with steel. All right, the bucket is full of the steel, and we came up with 156 pounds of steel. Now we're going to weigh the stainless steel here. Charlotte's got the tub there. We're going to zero this out here. So let's tear weight that out. All right, so she's going to put the stainless steel in there and see how much we have. All right, stainless steel, 35.6 pounds. Okay, now let's weigh the copper up. Okay, we'll zero this tub out here, and it is at 0. So go ahead and put the copper in there. Just dump it in there. Here's the exciting part. How much copper did we get? All right, it's all in there. Let's check this out. 24.7 pounds. 24.7 pounds of copper. Wow, that was even more than I was expecting. From that little pump, all that copper from that little motor. I was not expecting that much, but I did say 1.5% of the horsepower, which would have been about 23 pounds. We end up with almost 25 pounds of copper. Wow, that's a pretty darn good motor. All right, let's add these numbers up and see what we paid for this pump and how much money we made from it. All right, I added up all the numbers, and here's what we come up with. Okay, the thing weighed 323 pounds at the cost of 10 cents a pound. Was $32.30 is what I paid for it. So out of the steel, 156 pounds at 6.5 cents a pound, we got $10.14. The stainless steel, 35.6 pounds at 30 cents a pound, which was the last price I got when I took stainless up. Comes to $10.68. And the copper, wow, 24.7 pounds of copper at $3.45 a pound, come to $85.22 for a total of $106.04, minus the cost of $32.30, give us a profit of $73.84 that we brought into the shop today. That's a good day. That is a good day for us. Charlotte and I are going to end this video now, and we thank you for watching, and we've got to get our scrap to the scrap yard so we can get paid. Thanks for watching.